It's our Youth Sunday service, one of my favorite things. This is our 8th Youth Sunday, and really excited to be back. I thank Josh and Michelle for letting me come back to play a little bit, and it's just fun to be here. This is, as we gather for Youth Sunday every year, there's a certain time during the week when the adults get together and say, why did we think that this was a good idea to, I'm really excited that we're talking about curiosity this year because I'm always curious to see how this service is going to turn out. And so far, it's been pretty good, and it's always great to work with our kids. It is. So my wife Stephanie and I have been with our grandkids this week, who are 1 and just about to turn 3, and their parents are traveling. So we got to move into their home and into their world, and it's definitely a world of curiosity, which I've really enjoyed just being with them and hanging out with them as I've been working on my talk this week, and just seeing how curious they are, and dropping them off at their preschool in the morning and just meeting all these other little people who are curious to know who we are when we come in. Who are these new people, And I even got to do a little concert with the kids on Halloween, which was me falling right into my comfort zone. But they were all dressed up in their costumes, and they came in, and we had a little concert there, and it was just so much fun. It reminded me how much I love playing music with kids, and also reminded me how grateful I am for our preschool here, and that April is doing such an amazing job. So I just want to give a shout out to April Reeves and to all the teachers on our preschool. Yeah, it's just such an incredible time as their brains are putting things together and getting things going. And now, I know a lot of you are curious now, well, is he going to show a picture of his grandkids or not? So here they are, right here. It's happy hour right there. That's happy hour. So today we're going to talk about curiosity a little bit, and I think it's fitting in this church that we would talk about curiosity because our founder, Ernest Holmes, was a very curious person. He grew up in a small town. He didn't have a lot of education. I think he made it through like the 8th grade of formal education, but he was very, very curious person. He was a voracious reader and just really wanted to study, and he became interested in spiritual matters. And then when he left home as a teenager, he went to one of his brother's houses, and one of the things that his brother had on his shelf was Emerson's essays. He started looking into Emerson's essays and these huge, huge ideas about the universe and how it works, and all about the nature of man and all this stuff. And it said that at a certain point he realized, he's talking about me. He's talking about me. And he was hooked. He was hooked on that spiritual life and that exploration. And he just kept exploring as he kept going, exploring different religions, what we call the golden thread of truth that runs through all religions, and ways that people could work together on things. So we're actually here today because of Ernest Holmes' curiosity and his desire to know truth. And one of the things he said was, as the world keeps unfolding, that our teaching, the science of mind, should stay open at the top, because new things are going to happen. We want to stay open at the top and not ever think that we're done exploring, or that we're done being curious. So in the spirit of being open at the top, we have with us today our first youth speaker on this platform, on a Youth Sunday or any time really. And so we are being open at the top, and I want to welcome Camila Self.
All right. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction and those kind words. You're too good. I don't even know what the... I guess I'll give it a go or something. But thank you so much. I really am so beyond honored to be the first youth speaker, and especially that I get to do it on Youth Sunday, which has always been such an important day to me because I think I've been a part of all of them. And so I'm really grateful to get to show up here in this way and to share my message. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to start off by saying thank you, Stacy, for coming up with such an awesome theme, because I think curiosity goes perfectly with Youth Sunday. I think the go-to thought when we think curiosity is that youthful, childlike curiosity in nature that drives us to ask questions and that drives us to push further and to test the bounds and to test the limits and to keep asking questions and to keep trying. And so I think it's really beautiful that we get to talk about curiosity today and to see it from such a youthful perspective. I think that's really awesome. And so I myself was a very curious child. I feel like we've all had that and we've all maybe grown out of it, hopefully not, but I was a big question asker. I love to push deeper. I love to say, why? What about? But what about? And I think while it was fun for me, maybe it wasn't quite so fun for everybody else, but that's okay. I think that it's really awesome that as kids we get the opportunity to ask questions like that. And I got myself into a little bit of trouble sometimes, definitely. People weren't always willing to answer my questions. I heard, well, curiosity killed the cat. I don't know how many times. But I always used to reply, well, the cat has 9 lives. So, and I always thought I was doing something, and they always thought that I missed the point. But honestly, I think maybe I was onto something, because what a ridiculous saying, honestly. And so when I was getting curious about curiosity and researching a little bit about this talk, I got into the story of that expression. And I was kind of curious to see what brought us there and why we use it so often. And I found that the story comes from a little kitty cat who was investigating and heard a sound on the other side of an open door, and when it stuck its head halfway through to investigate, someone closed the door, not knowing the cat was inside. So I can see how maybe there's a bit of a double-edged sword when it comes to curiosity, because in that way it can be a bit detrimental. It can maybe lead to a little bit of intrusive questioning, and perhaps it leads to disobliging or oppositional action. And so in that way, we can see how there's a bit of a shadow of curiosity, because it all just depends on how you approach it and how you best come at it and utilize it and apply it to yourself. Because I found a really interesting concept that kind of encapsulates this idea of how curiosity can be both detrimental and beneficial depending on how you come at it. And that is the curiosity paradox. And to sum up, it talks about when curiosity is paired with openness, it leads to pleasure. But when it is paired with anxiety, it leads to further discomfort. And I thought this was really interesting because it allows us to understand how important it is to ask those questions and to push forward and to sometimes ask the daunting question of why or how or what if? And I think it's important that we understand our place in maintaining that curiosity and keeping that energy as we move forward into our lives. And it's, I think, the foundation for progress. And I think that innately being curious and asking these questions is the only way that we can get to real change, real growth, real progress. And I like to think of it as breaking from the status quo and opening up your mind to new ideas, which is so important here at Mile High. And to bring it back a little bit more locally, to bring it back to Colorado, I currently attend CU Boulder. I don't know if you guys have maybe heard of CU Boulder, or if you know anything about it, or maybe if you've heard of that one dude that's there or something. But I think that's a really interesting story to tie it back to, and to run it down to kind of tell the story for those that don't know. CU Boulder has been historically one of the worst teams, probably ever. And it's been really interesting to see our downfall since the 90s, and it's really crazy. I think that was our first and only time being in the championships, but so we've been historically bad since then, and last year I got the really high honor of getting to watch them go 1-11, which was really interesting to see, to say the least. And this was really interesting because after seeing that, there was a lot of different thoughts about what to do next. And I think it's really important to take it back to the story of this coach who decided to take a chance on Colorado, who decided to take a chance on a community that was divided, a community that had no spark, and he took a chance and moved all the way across the country, probably for millions of dollars, but that's okay, whatever. But what it took was somebody asking the question. Somebody reached out and somebody said, what if? What if we asked him to come here? What if we won more than a game? What if we could be better? And he took a chance himself by saying, what if I did? And I think it's really important, and it's a testament to the importance of asking the question and bringing forth those ideas and being interested in seeing that change. And so it's really interesting to me and important to me that we know that even though it is so easy to accept things for how they are, and oftentimes, in the case of the cat, it can be easy to fall into a trap, or things can even be deadly when we're curious. But I think science fiction author C.J. Cherryh said it best: ignorance killed the cat, curiosity was framed. Thank you. I'm gonna pass it off now.
All right.
Thank you.
So it was W.C. Fields who said, never work with children or animals, and I know what he meant. So a while back, when our youth director over there, Stacy Butters, said, we're going to talk about curiosity this year, she gave me a book called Curious, and it turned out to be a great read, and so I'm so glad that I got it. It was written by a guy named Ian Leslie, who was an English writer, who was curious about curiosity, and he wrote about just the phenomenon of it and how it's changed through time and different aspects of it. And one of the aspects that he talked about that I really loved was the difference between puzzles and mysteries. Difference between puzzles and mysteries. And a lot of us love to do puzzles, right? We've got crossword puzzles, we've got jigsaw puzzles, we've got Wordle, we've got Wheel of Fortune, trying to fill in the blanks, and puzzles have a certain sense to them. There's a structure to them because there's a missing piece. And we know that the missing piece exists. And so we're hungry for it and want to go for it. How many people like to do puzzles here? All right, cool. Crossword people, and just doing those puzzles gives us a sense of satisfaction when we find that missing piece. And the difference with mysteries is we don't have that missing piece. We don't know what we don't know. Puzzles have a tendency to go for how much or how many, but mysteries have a tendency to lead us towards how or why. Mysteries are murkier. They're harder to get our hands around. And we don't get that sense of satisfaction from closing in and getting the answer. And I think that the work that we do here, our spiritual work, is leaning into a mystery. When we lean into meditation and affirmative prayer, spiritual writings, taking classes, we are leaning into a mystery and something that we know we're probably not going to figure out in this lifetime. And yet if we give ourselves to it, if we keep moving towards that mystery, it can affect our life in such beautiful ways for the whole time. And so I think that sense of mystery is something that's really alive in us today as we see these kids here. And see that opportunity to keep the mystery open in ourselves as adults. Ernest Holmes, when he was studying mystery, he had that feeling that there was something more going on. People described him as being kind of impish because he kept a childlike wonder about him all the time. What might be available to us? What might the opportunity be? He wrote this book called This Thing Called You. And it's about this mystery. You know, he was reading Emerson's essays and about those gigantic ideas. But what he did in This Thing Called You was he took it personally. This is about me. He took that concept that he learned right in the beginning and tried to explain it to us, that we're in the midst of a mystery right now. and to give ourselves to it. This is what he said. The original author of all life is in you and around you, not a God who was, but a God who is. This is the great secret that you share with life. Life is wherever you are. It revolves around you even as it flows through you. Keep the doorway of your mind open. Feeling, thinking, communing with this life, know that it fills you with light and with power. Keep the doorway of your mind open. I love that thought. The doorway of our mind connects us with the doorway of our soul, and the doorway of the soul opens inward to this incredible mystery that we are. Each of us is an amazing mystery. Even people that you're around all the time and you're so familiar with, there's a mystery unfolding in them that we don't even know about. And we need to go deeper into that mystery to explore it. One of my favorite words is the word ineffable. I love that word, ineffable. It means too great or extreme to be expressed in words. Too great, too meaningful to be expressed in words. And I teach a workshop sometimes called Baseball as a Road to God. And I tell people that baseball is kind of ineffable. It's too great to be expressed in words. And I know that many of you feel that way about baseball. Many of you are thankful that it's over, finally. But what I'm really heading for in this workshop is that God is ineffable. The mystery of God is ineffable. And there's an opportunity for us all to live in that mystery, as people always have. To give ourselves over to it and to see it unfold through us. Great Jewish writer Abraham Heschel, a rabbi, he said this about God. God is not a scientific problem, and scientific methods are not capable of solving it. The problem of God is not only related to phenomena within nature, but to nature itself. Not only to concepts within thinking, but to thinking itself. It is a problem that refers to what surpasses nature, to what lies beyond all things and all concepts. The moment we utter the name of God, we leave the level of scientific thinking and enter the realm of the ineffable. I love that. That's what curiosity is about. So let's enjoy our puzzles, but stay close to that mystery, the ineffable mystery of God. I'm going to hand it off to my buddy here.
Wow. Well, Dr. Barry is the legend. That's all I have to say. Except I was told I have to be meaner to him, so I don't know. But I am really lucky to have been raised by him and by the Mile High Church community especially, and all of the members here. And I'm really, really baffled when I say that this November, when I turn 20, I will have been here for 17 years. And that is just absolutely crazy to think about. And so many people here have watched me grow, helped me grow, and I'm so incredibly grateful that I got to be able to experience a community as warm and as accepting and as loving and as fulfilling as this one. And I know a lot of you are curious about what it's like to grow up here and to feel that kind of energy my whole life. And I just want to say that one of the most important lessons that I've learned from Mile High is that a community of love and acceptance can truly exist in our world because it exists here. And one of the most important things that I have gathered from my time here is hope. And I truly believe that with what we've learned here and with what we've gathered here and what we've created here, we are in a unique position to take our hope and to take that love that we've created and apply that and manifest that into the rest of the world. And so science of mind teaches us the power of the mind and the ability to think critically, to ask the question, why, to push further, to push bounds, to resist the temptation to stay in the status quo. And as cheesy as it sounds, I've learned growing up at Mile High that anything is possible. And I really do believe that to the fullest capacity that I can. And with that, I know that we have the unique power and the ability to create a world that we see here. To take what we've learned here, to take the lessons of love, to take the lessons of growth and everything that we treasure so much and value, and take that and apply that to the rest of the world and manifest that everywhere we go. And so, thank you. Yes, it's really, really awesome to know that we've created that here and that we have the power to do that. And growing up in this community, I've seen firsthand that if we can create that feeling here, that's something that we can take and apply everywhere else. And we can put that energy back into the world. And in a way, it's our responsibility to do so because we know how to do it. We've learned it. And this is really important, and curiosity has really stuck with me throughout my life from these teachings of Mile High, and especially as I continue my education in college, and especially because I study political science, which I think we all know politics are, and I think I know more than anyone because I do study political science, so I think I hate politics probably the most. But it is really interesting that something so significant can be so divisive. And I think what's really important to me is leaning into these things that make us uncomfortable and leaning into these things that are difficult and hard to talk about and embracing that, because we as individuals can make a difference. We, especially here in the Mile High community, know what it means to manifest greatness into the world and to see light in even the darkest of places. And so with that, I think we have a unique ability and a unique purpose to take what we've learned and to take these ideas and do what we can to change our reality and to change the status quo and to resist complacency. And all in all, I'm so very grateful for the opportunity to grow up in a place that taught me how to show up for my community. And also, it's important to say that we're never done growing. Even though I was lucky enough to grow up here, we all have the opportunity now to grow and learn and unlearn and change and progress. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to do so. And to do so with an open heart and an open mind. And we often take the gift of an open and curious mind for granted, but I think that it can be our greatest superpower. That's it, I guess. Passing it off.
So Albert Einstein once said, "I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious." I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. I actually think he probably did have some special talents, but I appreciate the thought. I think what he was leaning into was that he was just curious about the way the whole universe worked. He was curious about the big questions. You know, Isaac Newton had solved a lot of the way that the world works that we know about the world of physics and the way that things operate with motion and gravity and stuff like that. But Einstein was asking the questions that people had never even asked before about time and space and speed and how things are relative to each other. And we all know that formula that he came up with, even though none of us have any idea what it means. And yet he was willing to ask those questions, and he was also willing to lean into that mystery, kind of with a childlike innocence, and just knowing that it was so much bigger than he could even imagine. This is one of the things that Einstein said. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. One cannot help but be in awe when they contemplate the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery each day. I got to tune into that a little bit this morning because the clocks moved back. A lot of us got to see the sunrise. Anybody see the sunrise this morning? Wow. Wow. And we got to say, I'm a part of this. I'm a part of this. Look at this planet I showed up on at this time. What an incredible thing. What an incredible place to be. Many of you know that I officially retired from this gig a while back, so doing this talk this week has meant a lot to me, the thing about curiosity and about trying to stay curious. Moving into retirement has been a change. Dr. Roger calls it rewirement, and I think he's on to something there. So I'm just leaning into that idea of not having the outside world determine my schedule as much as it has. Going to fewer meetings, which I don't miss that much, and just leaning more into the things that I'm curious about. I've got a spiritual and physical workout that I do every morning, and spending more time with the grandkids, writing songs for the grandkids, doing a little bit more cooking, struggling with learning how to play the piano, which is very humbling for me right now, but I'm staying with it. I'm also working with our Sacred Earth ministry here with some great people here at Mile High. Want to do some environmental work. We're just getting that rolling. And I really have a great passion for that. And this week I put a sign up over my desk. And it said, stay curious. That's what I want to do. I want to stay curious. And I encourage all of us to stay curious. I think it's how we stay alive. We keep that spark alive in us. What can I do? What can I do? There's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world. I don't have to remind us of that. And it's interesting that now we can see all this violence, anger, hatred coming out right in front of us on our screens all the time. And it can make us very fearful about going out into the world. And it can make us very fearful about being curious. And I think we need to resist that temptation to hide and step into it. Because God didn't go anywhere. God is still available. God is still as much alive now as God ever was. So I wonder in this time right now what God has in mind. And I'm curious about that. And I think there's an opportunity here that we have in this teaching because we know and we talk and we study about consciousness. And what keeps me going is that I know it's that our consciousness has to change. We have plenty of information. We have more information than we can possibly handle. Anybody here feel like they're lacking in information? What we're lacking in is wisdom. We're lacking wisdom. And our consciousness has to change. And it is changing. And it is growing. One of the things that gives me hope is a day like today around all these kids. Our consciousness is changing. And I want to be a part of it. And I want to support it. And I want to keep that faith that God is on the scene. That God is alive. These great people that we study, like Emerson and Holmes, they lived through some very difficult times. And yet they were able to stay optimistic. And they were able to stay curious. So that's what I'm asking you today as we close. Will you stay curious with me? Are you with me? Yes. Okay, let's pray together. So right now we just fall into our hearts. I know that there is a wisdom, a power, a creative intelligence that is alive everywhere right now. And in the midst of all this chaos and violence, anger, hatred, prejudice, we seek to remain curious to the deeper truth about us, about that power that lives within us, about the tools that are available to us. I give such thanks for the power of our youth in this community and in this world who have come here at this time with great work to do. I know that a seed has been planted in them. They have indeed come to the world trailing clouds of glory. So we give ourselves over to that mystery this day. And we know that all is well. And so once again, we wonder what God has in mind. So it is.